Woo! Hey, it's Tom Cruise. I just want to say, I've always considered myself an articulate person. Yeah, I studied articulation. Not a lot of people know that. I've done my research. And I found this one podcast called The Articulate OX. It's incredible, really. It completes me. It's by Soma79. Give it a listen.
Hey, this is Soma79 with a special announcement. My new Mega Mix is up. My MF Doom Mega Mix, Oxidation Moons Day, is now available. Go to www.soma79.com/doom to check it out. It's a 30-minute mix that I did of MF Doom raps over my own beats. I really enjoy it. I hope you really enjoy it. So check it out. Tell a friend. Peace. Hey, welcome to the Articulate Ox podcast. I am your host, Soma79. Thank you so much for joining me today. My guest today is my man, Evan Ferrante, aka Not Tom Cruise. I've known Evan since college, and I unfortunately have not got to see him in person in probably over a decade. I think I haven't been to LA in that long, and this conversation was a great, it reminded me of something that I remember thinking about Evan years ago, is that when you're talking to him at one moment, it's obvious to you, you're sitting there talking to him, and one moment it's obvious, oh, this is a very smart person. And then 2 seconds later, it's like, oh, this is obvious, this is a very talented person. And then he says something super funny, like, oh, this is also a very funny person. And then he says something super kind, and you're like, he's also one of the kindest people I know. And he's one of those people who, even though you've known him for a long time, still is full of surprises, and they're all positive. And, just when you think you're having a nice moment, he hits you with a good laugh. And just when, we talk about something goofy, he hits you with something really poignant. So I really enjoyed my conversation with Evan. I'm sort of bearing the lead here too, because Evan is, the reason we're talking to him today is that he is like the top Tom Cruise impersonator out there. And he's made a thing out of it. And he started doing it around the same time that we met. And it's really crazy over this course of, probably 25 years since I've known him, to see this evolve as something that he just did as a joke in college to being something that he's getting paid and flown around the world to do. And it's, not all of us are born with, the slight resemblance to Tom Cruise and the looks and the vocals, but, Evan is a good example of how take what you have and make the most of it. And he's really done that, and he's never really stopped to make himself better in other directions as well. So I could have stuck around and talked to him about, he has so many great stories. There's probably a ton we didn't even touch on here. So yeah, it was great catching up with you again, Evan, and I think you're all going to really love this episode. So, all right, talk to you. Peace.
And with wings clipped, quick to flip manuscripts, cause her man went from damaged kid to damn he's rich. But she still can't stand the way he manages to never put nickels in the can for the cancer kids. Plus he cheats at cornhole and brags that he won, so she lost interest like porno after she comes. My DM started jingling, baby, as it was done. 2 seconds later I can hear the snapping of her gums. She calls me half Dodge Challenger, half Lip Gallagher.
All right. Hey, welcome to the newest episode of the Articulate Ox podcast. I am here with my guest, Evan Ferrante, aka Not Tom Cruise. What's going on today, man?
I'm here in the flesh now. What are we going to do about it? What's happening? What's happening today?
I don't even know, man.
You don't know what's on the agenda. You didn't send me an agenda.
I didn't have one. Today is my first day back to work after the Labor Day weekend, and I'm just looking at my eyes right now. I think I might have had a few too many edibles over the weekend because I feel like I never really fully woke up today. So
I seldom rock edibles these days, but I did partake yesterday, and it flattened me completely. Yeah. But my partner and I took them, and she was completely gone to the point where she couldn't fulfill the obligations of the rest of the day. Like, we had a party to go to, and she was it was just done. She was out for the count. She was like, "You go without me." I barely could make it over there, but I did it, and I rallied.
Yeah.
But
edibles, they can be a bit of roulette. You don't know what you're going to land on.
Yeah, it's like you just gotta, cancel all your appointments for the week.
Yeah.
Just
so
it's hard for me.
I've known you for a long time. We shouted you out a bunch on the Alex Merkin episode, who is probably the
Yeah.
person we met through back at BU years
Hmm.
ago.
Yeah.
God, man, feels
You
like
you
forever.
you were in film school with him, correct?
Yes, I was. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
You weren't part of the film program. What were you
No,
studying
no, no.
there?
I was just studying economics, and I did study English in the beginning, but and I of course was an actor, but I just didn't
Yes.
study acting. But I was brought into different productions that you guys were doing. I think I did a few of Alex's, but I did some of some others as well. Yeah.
Yeah, I think you became. It was funny
Yeah.
that everybody who I know is in a film school said this, that most schools that have film programs also have drama programs, and it's like those people just never meet. Like
Right.
it's just terrible. So like I think whenever people
Yeah.
identified you as somebody who could actually act, it was like, oh yeah, yeah, let's
Why
get him
why
in my
what
thing.
why wasn't there, I mean, isn't it one of the best communication schools, but there was no
Yeah,
communication
I know, I know.
between the departments
You
to
know what I
bring in
think it
that doesn't
is
make any sense.
I think what it is this is something that probably makes more sense when we're younger than we're older. Is I think there was just like, oh, those are drama kids and we're film dorks. I think it was just there were different
Mm,
brands of whatever, and there were also at different ends of the campuses. You would think the school itself would try to
yeah.
encourage it, you know?
Drama meaning theatrical stage actors and not film actors, you're saying?
Yeah, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
don't know. But it's just I think you would think the school would probably try to put something that into effect. That would be
Right.
the benefit of everybody, but I don't know.
Right.
Maybe I'm trying to fix problems that aren't really there.
I did a lot of black and white films when you guys were shooting on
Yeah.
Super 16 or
The
8 or
Bolex. Yeah.
yeah, Bolex, exactly.
Yeah. I left
Yeah.
BU. I graduated 3 instead of 4 years. So I skipped my senior year. And like that
Yeah.
was the year they taught everybody how to digitally edit. So it was like I learned how
Oh,
to scotch tape shit together and got
yeah.
thrown out into the real world. And then
What
you
was
know,
that edit? What was the editing bay called?
it was called an Avid back then.
No, no, the digital one. But what
Oh,
was the
the before digital Steinbeck or
Steinbeck?
something.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
what it was. Yeah, yeah.
yeah. It was
But
it was,
that's so cool to learn on that. That's
yeah,
awesome.
yeah. It's really coming in handy.
Yeah, right.
You know.
Not practical, but it's cool.
No, 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 no. So
Yeah,
we'll talk a little about Tom Cruise, but the thing that sort of
yeah.
got my girlfriend excited about this interview is
Oh, yeah.
about a couple months ago, I don't know how Swan's Crossing came up, but like she
Hmm.
brought it up, and I think we were watching the new Sarah Michelle Gellar show. She's like, "Remember the show Swan's Crossing?" I'm like, "Yeah,
Yeah.
crack did I do?" And I told her that I knew you, and she was very excited. And
Wow.
we watched them. To be honest with you, I'd never seen it before because like I think
Yeah.
I knew you. It was what was it on? Was it on cable?
I mean, it was a really, really bad show.
I was going to tell you, I thought it actually held up pretty
But
well.
well, here's the thing. You actually watched some of it?
We watched it and enjoyed the shit out of it. Like,
Well,
it's like,
I didn't say it's not enjoyable, but it's like it's so low budge. And I mean, here's the thing. It's funny. It looks low budge, but we shot, at Kaufman Stories Studios, which is where the Cosby Show was shot. It's a legit studio in Queens, and we shot multi-camera. It was almost like a soap opera where there was like 3 or 4 cameras, and I think we had teleprompters in case we had too much dialogue to learn or something. But we had sets and everything and production design. It's just that it was an AFTRA contract at the time, because this is before SAG and AFTRA merged. So they didn't have a lot of money for the actors. But video, shot on video, and it just looks, not HD. It's shot pre HD. So it's just very grainy, and I mean, of course, and also the acting is really bad. But it was so much fun. I had a great time.
it has
And
a lot of charm to it, which I think is what makes it persevere over the years.
yeah, we had fans, like pretty big fans. I think if it came out today with a little bit better quality, with the way things are, everyone's so connected, the communities online, it would have flourished. It would have done really well,
Yeah.
because we had tons of traditional fan mail, and we were kind of starting at the beginning of the internet, to be honest, in like the early 90s, right before America Online.
Yeah.
It was like during Prodigy internet days, and we would get fan mail back then on like over Prodigy, which is like new.
Weird.
And yeah, it was very weird. We got fan mail from guys in jail, and then they had to kind of, and we were kids, of course, and they had to filter all that out, the producers, because obviously, it was inappropriate.
What were they writing? What were they writing you from jail?
I mean, like, they like children, they're
Oh,
into
okay. All right.
just play. Yeah, I mean, like, I mean, I guess
I guess like that's why they're in jail, because they're dumb enough to put it in writing. But
yeah,
like,
exactly. And they would ask me, they would send pictures for me to autograph, and
holy crap.
you know, yeah, creepy stuff like that. But Sarah Gellar, who was my first crush, he probably knew that years ago because I probably talked about it back then.
Oh, I think it's just
But
a lot of people's, but you at least,
yeah,
knew her.
I knew her. This is gonna sound creepy, but I was around her so much that I knew her scent, the scent of a
I know
woman. It
what you're
was
saying, yeah.
escape for women, and she was 15, 16 years old and had just this beautiful way about her. I was 12. She was very attractive, but also very intelligent. And just cool, like cool and mature, and never met a woman like that at that point in my life.
Yeah. This makes sense, because
But
she's had a very long, I mean, she's worked consistently
yeah,
for years. I
yeah,
mean, as
yeah,
has her husband. They've been
yeah,
very
yeah.
successful. They've chosen
I
their own paths.
I was always impressed with her, and I actually recently with John Orchiola, who we both know. You
Yes.
know John
He
Orchiola?
he was in the first episode of this podcast,
Oh,
actually.
no way. So he
Yep.
took me. No, I took him to. Wait, did he take me? I forgot. He might have taken me to the premiere of Sarah's new show that may be canceled now. I don't know.
That's the
But
one that got the conversation going about you, because we
yeah,
watched it. Yeah, it was a good
so
show.
it's like a werewolf show, right?
Yep. Everything's getting
And
canceled now, though. I'm
and
pretty pissed
I
about How I Met Your
but
Father going away, but
right,
that's my own thing.
but I got to reunite with her. You know, it had been a decade or more, longer than that, 20,
That's
20
awesome.
years maybe. So that was cool to see her again. And we caught up briefly, and she asked me if I was still in the business, and I told her not really. And it seemed like she'd been through the ringer, you know, like just, I mean, obviously she's had a tremendous amount of success, but she also seemed really tired of it all.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know.
Well, you think too that, like, there were a lot of, like, around in the early 90s, there was a whole
Yeah,
class of actresses like her. You could name like a bunch of them. And it's like,
totally.
as time has gone on, there's less and less of them,
Yeah,
because the roles are less and less, and the ones that are
yeah,
around had to work harder and harder. And I'm
yeah,
sure it's exhausting to have the type of career she has.
yeah, yeah. And it's just I wasn't gonna say it was my first fan letter though, was from Sarah, because I was the actor in the cast who received fan letters, I think, last, and I was kind of bummed about it because I was young, and I got a little hurt by that.
Yeah.
And Sarah had written me a letter, I think, and it didn't say her name, like it kind of anonymous, but it was like a beautiful letter, and she did that just to make me feel better.
Oh
But then
my
I
God.
got, yeah, she was really sweet of her. But then I got some fan letters after that. Not nearly as much as her and Shane McDermott, but
Yeah.
it was cool. Yeah.
Then the prisoners started coming in.
Yeah.
Was Mira Sorvino on that show too?
Mira Sorvino was in the show, yeah, and she got fired from the show
Really?
for shopping. She had a shopping habit at the time, and didn't come into work one day because she was shopping.
Well,
At
things
least
worked
that
out okay for her.
she won an Academy Award the year after. Yeah.
She was buying polish for her future Academy Award for Mighty Aphrodite, I'm assuming,
She
right?
was just buying brass polish, yeah,
Yeah.
just
It's like,
all the
I'm not
time,
gonna
just
need this. That was the
constantly
next
polishing.
year.
Yeah, pretty much. Because I think she was
Well,
like
she might not have been available for the next season then.
yeah, exactly. She might have been 18 at the time, I remember, I think.
That's just so funny to think that it was like, it kind of, as a kid show,
17.
like you said, and that she won for playing a prostitute, I believe, right? That
Right.
was,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Boy, that tells you a lot about the way Hollywood likes to cast.
Yeah.
I didn't realize it was Shane McDermott. He was in that movie with
Airborne.
Yes, and I just saw that recently, because there was this How Did This Get Made podcast where they watch all these bad movies. And I watched every one of the movies they did over quarantine, like 297 movies, and that was one of them.
Seth Green was in that, I think.
Yes. Yep.
And
Jack Black.
Jack Black, yeah.
Yeah.
And that was early in Jack Black's career. Like he
it
hadn't
was
really
very
done,
early. Yeah.
he hadn't done much.
No, Seth Green actually is in a decent amount, but
Yeah.
it's, as far as bad movies goes, that's actually a pretty decent one. I think there's some though there are a lot of questions it raises that doesn't answer, but whatever. What are you gonna do?
Yeah.
I've been to his website a few times. He sells paintings now, because someone else
Oh, really?
mentioned about something. He sells art, so he's got a few prints out there you can buy if you want to own original Shane McDermott. I think he might be doing real estate in Texas or something.
No, he's doing real estate. I didn't know he did art.
Yeah, I know I think he's doing a little. I don't know if the art's paying
That's cool.
the bills, but it's
Art's a hard it's a racket.
it is. It's like, I look at this thing behind me. This, I don't know if you're familiar with comics at all, with the Gambit thing. It took me 60 hours to make.
I got the first Gambit appearance in X-Men. I
Me
got
too. The one with Storm on
yeah.
the cover. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
yeah, yeah.
actually that's a decently valuable comic from a time where most of the stuff.
Mine is in very bad condition though, so
Okay.
I don't have a good one. But it's if you have a good condition, it's probably like several hundred, right?
I think it might even be a few grand. It might be like because
Yeah.
mine's like okay. I know I bought it when it came out, but like it's he was my favorite X-Men. But I made that. It took me like 60 hours, and then you're like, well, how do you price
Nice.
it? And
Yeah.
like I'm like, is someone really gonna pay me 2 grand for this? Like it's I guess
I
maybe
mean,
someone, but
you set your price, you forget it, set it, forget it, and see if it's what anyone's willing to pay for it. And
yeah,
you look, it's just like any market. Like I'm in real estate now. You set the price, and you could if you basically, if you want to sell it, if you're motivated to sell, you want to sell it or put it at fair market value. For art, it's a lot harder because there aren't that many comps, right? So
right.
we use comps in real estate, but there aren't many comps in
Yeah.
the art world. So you really just use the comps that you would base it on as an artist would be your previous work and what it's selling for. So almost like your day rate has gone up. Now your day rate's 5,000 a day. That's what I'm telling all my corporate clients for so everything, it's all based on your track record and past your historical data.
Yeah. I'm about to hit.
Um,
I did this solo art show about 5 years ago. It went really well. I sold a lot of stuff, but after that, I hit a point where I'm just like, I don't even like the selling was getting in the way of the enjoying being able to do it. And
yeah,
so I actively stopped selling. And it was like I started getting sales come through on my website, and I was like, I don't even feel like packing this up. Like it's just the thrill of like
yeah,
I just there was no thrill at all off of
yeah.
monetizing my stuff, which I was very surprised by because I mean I obviously like spending on stuff, but
This is an age-old dilemma, the art versus commerce debate,
yes,
and we're all in it, inextricably linked to it. And you can either have someone else handle all that, or you got to find some balance in your life and be a businessman. You have to be a business person,
yeah,
um,
or just choose to be
it's
an artist and go.
or just
I'm just
choose to
gonna
be an
make the
artist.
art.
Look, I'm reading Rick Rubin's book right now. Have you read it?
Oh, I haven't, but I definitely want. I'm a big fan of his. I want to read that.
Yeah, but it's all about create art for yourself. It's for you. Don't make it for others. I mean, it may not be commercial, but at least you're making art for yourself that you respond to, you're passionate about. But it has to be for you.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Don't set out to make it for others.
Yeah. Yeah.
You
Oh, yeah.
know,
Yep.
but you mean you can. I'm not saying don't. Just you have to choose what path you're going down.
I heard Kanye talk once about how he saw himself sort of like before he ran for president as a politician and being like, I'm here reporting on what's going on in the neighborhoods and
Mhm.
giving it into a way that we believe you all can understand, like a politician would at least attempt to do. And that's sort of the way that you're like, okay, I'm acknowledging that this is not necessarily the personal reflection of my deepest soul, but it's the way that I'm
Sure.
doing what I can do. That's where that line is the divine. You're like, would
Yeah.
this be the music I'd make if only I was listening? It's probably not as true, for someone like
Mhm.
him, but you know, I don't know. At the rate he's going,
Mm.
eventually he will be the only person listening. But
Yeah.
I don't know. So
He's taking a fall from grace. Yeah.
he has, yeah. It's sad. It's one of those things where I have a hard time even listening to the old music now. It's maybe Cry Me a River, who gives a fuck, but like it's
Right.
it's whatever. So
Yeah.
Alex, I had forgot about this at the interview. I forgot that he was the one responsible for bringing the Tom Cruise out of you. I forgot to get him to do his Jean-Claude Van Damme, which he probably would have refused. But
So he is and he isn't. Okay.
yeah,
Listen,
because I wanted to hear your side of this story because
listen, I in every interview I pretty much always give him credit, but there's a lot of people that are directly related to me kind of putting it out there in a bigger way. Like, so of course Alex is the one who encouraged me to do it for fun at college parties or around the college campus, right? And I worked on some things with him, and he did a Jean-Claude Van Damme thing, and I did Tom Cruise, and it was such a silly thing, but we just kept doing it for random people, like little small groups of people. One time I remember doing Magnolia, which fell flat because I did it for a bunch of kids, and Respect the Cock, Tame the Cunt doesn't really fly. So, but you really got to know your audience.
yeah.
So basically he's definitely responsible for nurturing it or encouraging me to do it more and more, and for recognizing that I had the natural ability and candor and just the attributes of Cruz, right? The charisma, the hand movements, the gestures, the aura, the essence, all of that, right? And I kind of got comfortable during college doing it more and more and throwing on the glasses and kind of creating a more heightened version of Cruz, which I do today. So I would say that yes, he kind of helped me. If he was like a manager, for instance, he helped me craft this persona that would eventually become something that I can monetize. But I never in a million years planned or considered this to be a career path, right?
Because back then
Ever,
it
ever.
wasn't like, oh, you
No.
could do an impression for a group of people, but it was like there was no way to put it out to the whole world and be like and have money come back, or there's no way to
So
even put it out to the whole world.
YouTube wasn't even out yet. So when YouTube came about in like 2004, 2003, 2004,
Which was maybe like
that
8 years after this
yeah,
started.
yeah. So that exactly because I started in 97, 98, just doing it for fun. And by the way, someone in high school who I don't credit, I think his name's Greg Verletta, but he's the guy who actually first planted the seed, the inception seed, and said, you really remind me of Cruz. And have you ever thought about doing something, like
Yeah.
playing, like acting like him, like SNL sketch comedy? But that immediately just dissipated in my consciousness until Alex kind of brought it out again. But
Alex
when
can
I
be pretty
was
persuasive.
yeah, he was. There wasn't like a time where he wouldn't be pushing me at a party to be like, oh, by the way, my friend Evan, he does this too, so you got to hear it. And he
Yeah.
wouldn't let me not do it, and I had to do it, especially with the drink in me or having a smoke, a hit.
Yeah.
He knew that's all it would take for me to loosen my or let down my guard. Um, but when YouTube came about, I had a girlfriend at the time. I think it was Emily Huggins. I forgot, but she's the one who said, just throw something up on this new platform, YouTube, before viral was a thing, before anything. It was just people being connected through video all over the world, and we thought, why not just put something up there? And I did it without a wig and glasses, just my acting prowess and strengths. And that video was a response to Tom Cruise and Katie Holmes getting married, wedding each other. So it was a response to their nuptials, congratulations, and it incorporated Oprah. Couch jumping had not come out yet, nor did Matt Lauer, I don't believe. So it was really just all about that. Oh no, maybe it was about the Oprah couch jumping too, because that's where he was on her show talking about Katie Holmes. That's when it all started, and that's when kind of Hollywood started knocking, and the videos started going around the world and in different circles. Like people in the entertainment industry would start to catch wind about it. And this one guy from high school, who was a producer out in LA, and I was still living in Queens, invited me to come out to do a sketch series called Tom Cruise is a Cock Block. And that's what kind of put me on the map, because it was a very funny concept that we executed really well. And we did it with some really great talent and crew. This guy, Richie Keene, was the director, and he's gone on to do a lot of movies and TV. And you just worked with some really good people, and it was tight. So when Funny or Die came out, shortly after, we blew up on Funny or Die when it was first kind of getting going. And then I wouldn't say I worked consistently after that, but I definitely, things kind of got going. It was the beginning of Maker Studios, which was partner with YouTube, but was the beginning of like a lot of YouTube stars. Sold to Disney for like close to $1 billion. But I worked with all those influencers and other talent and sketch comedy artists, improvisational artists, kind of going up in the world. When the beginning of new media contracts, I was kind of at the beginning of all that. Got taken advantage of plenty by corporations who made a lot of money. They made a lot of money.
What sort of scams are they trying to run?
Well, just like the new media contract was just a scam from the beginning, and it was the Wild West. And they, unlike traditional production or content, they would, traditionally you would get paid per piece, like per commercial, per sketch, per whatever. And in new media, they would pay you a much lower fee because it was a lower contract amount, but also throw in as many things as possible in that day for your day rate. So you were just taking advantage of, like,
Oh.
you wouldn't, like, crazy.
And
But
there's
they
a
made
next
it.
step now that's trying to be
Yeah.
done of the AI scans that'll be used in the background for till the end
Oh
of
yeah.
time, and like,
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
you know, I saw
Yeah.
that telemarketing documentary that HBO just did about how
Crazy.
the guy who's they're still using his voice after he died as an
Oh my
AI to make
God.
phone calls. Like,
Oh my God. That's wild. I didn't even get that far.
oh,
But
spoiler alert, but it's pretty wild.
that's a great doc.
It is amazing. I've been
Great
telling
series.
everybody you got to see it. It's
Because the access, the footage was incredible,
yeah,
treasure trove.
yeah, yeah.
That's what you would call a documentarian's wet dream when you have that. Like, it's like
Oh,
Tiger King.
it is,
Yeah.
and it's like a Grizzly Man too, where
Grizz,
you just
I mean,
like that
Grizzly
dude shouldn't
Man,
last 13 minutes. How'd he last 13 years?
Grizzly Man, though, without Werner Herzog's narration, probably wouldn't have been as good. His
Oh yeah,
narration, he's such a, it's like philosophical rambling, but cohesively, and it's a beautiful, beautiful, but hauntingly beautiful, commemoration of that man who, it's controversial, obviously. Like, you might say, well, you made your bed, you got to sleep in it, kind of thing. But he had this wonderful relationship with this bear until the bear, of course, as a bear would do in its natural habitat, killed him and his girlfriend, right? His
yeah,
wife, girlfriend.
yeah. I think this is his girlfriend.
And the craziest part about that movie was the fact that they didn't show anything. You just
Right.
heard you, and by the way, you didn't even hear it.
You
You
saw
saw the
him
reactions.
hearing it.
You saw the reactions of people
Right.
hearing it, and it was just horrifying just to know that footage exists, that audio exists, and ugh,
Because I remember
crazy.
there was no actual video because the camera
Right.
was down and wasn't and like you saw
Yeah.
him listening to it, and then he took off and he told the woman after, like, don't ever that's what I remember most about that, is what he said to the I think the family member who had it but had never heard it
Yeah.
before. It was like, don't ever listen to that.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's stuck with you for, I mean, that's a documentary I think about all the time. It's,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
So Tom, so back to Tom. I don't know how we got to
Yeah.
man-eating bears.
We went on a digressive stream of consciousness. We're in the
Yes.
flow.
Yes, yes. That's
There's
yesterday's
nothing
edibles.
there's nothing wrong with it. Yeah, it's yesterday's edibles kicking back in again. But How to with John Wilson,
Yeah.
HBO.
Oh God, yeah, yeah.
I mean, that my conversational rambles usually are aligned with, like, that kind of stream of consciousness flow. Like he just goes from, he has a theme.
Yeah.
Now we'll get back to it. We'll do a full circle thing. But he goes off on so many tangents.
Yeah, I love that.
But that's what I love about it.
Yeah, yeah. So
And
you mentioned the jumping on the couch thing. That triggered something in me. Were you
yeah,
on I remember you taping something for Always Sunny, but were you play
yeah.
Tom jumping on the couch? Did that ever air, or
It never aired my episode because they pulled it last minute, and it was, I think, due to legal reasons. They wouldn't really give me an answer, but they had cleared it for,
it was the 100th episode, wasn't it? Or was it
100th episode.
a
I was
milestone
directed.
episode?
I was directed by Charlie Day. It was super awesome, and everyone loved it. It was great footage. I got a call from the producers a few days prior to it airing saying, you're on the show. Tell all your friends and family, congratulations, you made the cut.
Yeah.
So of course I told all my friends and family, and then my mother calls me from New York telling me that I did not make the cut, and it was very upsetting. And I was replaced with Josh Groban in a less funny scene.
So does legal reasons mean like they thought it was gonna piss off TC, or like
100%.
wow, it's good
I
to be Tom.
think what happened is it was creatively cleared, and then they send everything to the attorneys before official launch, for a final, word on everything. I think that's what happened.
That's the thing too, because you would, I mean, I obviously have never seen it. I would assume this is likely in the realm of parody, which is
Yeah, of
protected
course.
by law. But those laws don't mean much if you have to defend yourself in court, because it's like the court
It
fees are
is.
basically worth the penalty. It's not
It's
worth it. I've got a few
yeah.
cease and desists in my day over stuff I thought I could have won, but like I'm like, I'm
Oh
gonna let
yeah.
that slide.
Oh well, like what?
Well, just like I did like mashups and stuff
Oh,
of characters that
oh,
I think
oh,
fell
oh,
under parody, but I
oh,
don't want
yeah.
to call any more attention. I actually
Well,
mentioned it in my last episode and showed it. So
well, parody, like my work, I've never had an issue. Was that you or me? Sorry, that sound. Was that me?
I didn't hear anything.
Oh, I heard it on my end. Okay. Um, but I've never had an issue because everything's covered under parody laws. And also my name is not Tom Cruise, my brand name.
Right.
So it's literally in my name that I'm not him. I'm not trying to be Tom Cruise. I'm literally just an SNL kind of Mad TV kind of actor who just does one impression, but I do it very well. But I do one thing, and I've exploited it over and over again, doing sketch comedy ideas.
Right.
And I'm a window into his world, and I provide a window into his world, and I just have fun exploring this mythos and lore of the crew of Cruise, which the reason why I think it's done so well is because people don't have access to him. He's a very private individual, and I provide that zany access.
That's a really
Any
good point because
yeah,
he's somebody who, even though he's one of the most famous people in the world, he's almost like too famous to do any of this shit. Like he's like, I'm not gonna sit down with he's like he's
well,
not
you
gonna do
literally
like
yeah, you see him in press interviews and on the red carpet, and that's
right,
basically it. There's no he's not open,
right.
in any
Maybe to
way.
his followers, but it's like
Yeah, but I mean, but no, he's not because he's not. I mean, he has social media, but he's not the one on responding to anything, and
oh,
everything on.
my followers, I
Yeah.
was
Oh,
referring to a different type of followers,
oh, yeah.
like his religious,
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah,
yeah. But
yeah.
the thing about him though, it's like you got pretty lucky when in the handing out of like the people that you do the impression of, because like
Yeah.
he's just as famous. I mean, he was really, 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 really famous when he started, but he's just as famous now, if not more.
So I
Hasn't
started
gone away.
I
No,
started during Jerry Maguire, right? I started in
yeah,
1997, so he was pretty big deal then, and of course he was a huge deal when Top Gun came out and Risky Business, all that. But he's and he had some rough spots over the years, of course, with the War of the Worlds era, or basically the whole Matt Lauer Oprah thing when he fired his publicist and had his sister do it, and she said, "Just be yourself, everyone will love it," and people didn't like it.
yeah. It's like
So,
it's strike one. Yeah,
so,
it's amazing how often that's bad
but
advice.
but he and then post even Magnolia was like I think his greatest performance, and then of course he didn't win an Academy Award. Now
And Eyes
you
Wide
know
Shut too, which is my favorite movie of all time.
Eyes Wide Shut's fantastic, and it gets better and better as you watch it.
Yeah, agreed.
Um, love that movie, but I think popularity wise, he really, you know, um, meteorically just soared after doing all of his stunts and action stuff.
Yeah.
And obviously Top Gun was a phenomenon too, which is awesome. And they're going to do a Days of Thunder now. They're going to do everything.
Oh, are
They're just,
they?
they're just going to milk it for all
I
it's worth.
love Days of Thunder was my shit. I watched Days of Thunder when I was a kid. I must watch Days of Thunder 100 times and Top Gun like
Yeah,
once. So
they're definitely going to do another Top Gun. They're going to just make, until it stops losing money, they're going to keep doing it.
yeah,
But I think when he made the decision just to do movies for his fans and not for critics or for, the Academy, he just chose to be continue to be the biggest movie star, the last movie star in history.
right. I mean, you also
I don't think there's anyone who compares.
no. I mean, you think too that we mentioned Eyes Wide Shut. That the process of making that movie was the longest continuous film shoot ever. It was not with his wife, and it was not
Yeah,
long before their separation.
right.
And they're very private people, and so who knows what. But it must have
Yeah.
been a very difficult time in his life, and you could see there was a pivot that was made not long in a lot of areas of his life, not long after that. Which for me, who loved that movie, I was like, I always hoped he'd do movies like that forever. But
I mean, to be honest, when you think about it, about what the movie was about like, or one of the themes about but potential the betrayal between a husband and wife,
right,
and adultery, or just the paranoia of
and
adultery.
he's emasculated at like every
Yeah.
turn in that movie, which is something that when you watch it back now,
Yeah.
you're like, wow, he really just like you
Well,
probably wouldn't see him make a choice to do a film like that again.
well, he goes on a bender that night, and you don't know
Right.
what's real, what isn't real, what's a dream, what isn't. and that's the cool thing about that movie. But just when they're smoking pot together, that was an amazing scene or sequence about a relation, involving a husband and wife and their paranoid, and just the way they talk to one another, their love languages.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's one of my favorites for sure.
Yeah, Nicole Kidman's performance in that
I love the
it's really
scenes.
special.
I love the early scenes where she has the dance with that older
Yeah,
aristocrat gentleman.
Ziegler.
Like,
No,
yeah,
Ziegler's. Oh,
uh,
Ziegler's the other. That's
yeah,
what's his name?
but like some
Sidney
prince or
Pollack.
something. Seemed like a prince or something.
Yeah.
But he was completely taken by her, and there was a lot of chemistry between them. And then of course Tom Cruise had those two beautiful women on his arms, and was just in heaven.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's a fascinating film.
That movie, it was fun. So I actually recorded the commentary to that maybe I'll release sometime soon, because I was thinking about doing commentaries for this as well, because that movie, like you said, every time I see it, I see something different in it, and it's not just a small different thing. I get something
Hmm.
big different out of that every time I
Oh
see it.
wow,
It's
that's cool.
there's just so, especially too as you get older, like if you were like the movie like Kids, that was a movie that, like, Kids, Clerks, and Reservoir Dogs are why I went to film school, which is why it shouldn't be too surprising
Wow.
that I'm saying I'm making a movie now that's like the level of Clerks. Like, that's what I enjoy. But you
Yeah,
watch a
yeah,
movie like Kids now, I was disturbed by that as a kid. Watching that
yeah.
now is a real tough sit. Like
But
when you
that's a yeah. I mean, like even if it was a documentary, it'd be hard to watch.
right, right.
It's a very risky film to make.
Especially when you look now, you have two actresses in Rosario Dawson and Chloe Sevigny, who I think one of
Yeah,
them won an Oscar, and the other one, if she hasn't has one yet, Rosario Dawson
yeah,
deserves an Oscar. And
mm,
then you have a group of other super talented people who are just no longer with us due to a lot of what you see, the type of life you see in that movie. And it's a real, it's one of those movies that it ages, it changes as it ages, because these were our
yeah,
peers, and now I'm sure people from that. I think back to when I was that age. Some of those people turned out way more successful than I thought, and some of them are no longer with us. And it's like it's
sure.
a reminder of that. It's really poignant.
Yeah, I think it comes down to drugs, just bad influences. Because some of those people, if they went straight edge, or if they cut it out, or if they've been sober for 14 years, they probably did all right.
Right.
It's the ones that just went down the rabbit hole of drugs and partying that it's too hard to get to come back from that.
Yeah. So you mentioned. So was it? You mentioned. So you're from New York originally.
Yeah.
Was it Tom Cruise that really brought you out to Hollywood? Because as you said, you went to college for economics and English. You didn't seem like you were planning
It
on
was,
doing this, or
well, I wasn't really planning on doing anything with an economics degree, to be honest. It was undergrad, means nothing, but
yeah.
I
I can say the
I
same thing
did,
about my film degree.
yeah,
It's been 30 years. I'm finally making a movie.
yeah, yeah, exactly. That's awesome. Congratulations. So
Congratulate me when it's done.
yeah, exactly. I don't want to jinx it. So just I just moved out with my girlfriend at the time. I was lazy, living in Queens, had no real ambition, just kind of floating by. I did have one of the craziest experiences where before I moved, so I moved out with a girl, she was the one who pushed me, been like, let's move out west. And we got a bottle of, like, or not a bottle, a bag full of weed. She had like an adventure box, and it contained weed and different fun things for a road trip, and just got me super high and trucked me across the country. That's what got me out there. But back when I was in Queens, I was in terrible credit card debt for the first time in my life, like mounting credit card debt. Like I was drowning in it, maybe $16,000 back then,
that's
which
about
was
as high as I got too.
which was a lot. And
Yeah,
I was
it felt like a lot
even
of money.
even
Yeah,
even though I wasn't living in New York at the time, like I was living in Queens, like I was
yeah.
living, a borough. It was still expensive in Queens,
Oh
even though it was
God,
like
yeah.
one of the cheaper boroughs. But I was still having a hard time getting by because I was only making intermittent money from PA work and production coordinator work, which is, as you know, like, indentured servitude.
Right.
And then
Long
there
hours, low
was,
pay, inconsistent
yeah,
work, no
inconsistent.
appreciation.
You don't necessarily go from job to job. So there's like, yeah. So I was scrounging together enough for my rent, but I was putting everything on my credit card for everything else. And living in that town was expensive, and having a social life of any kind. And just dating was, everything was expensive.
Yeah.
So amassed all this debt, and I hadn't made any money off cruise, right? Like nothing substantial by any means. Like I think at that time, maybe I had been flown out to do some work for Disney, some of those lower paid new media contracts.
Mhm.
I was just discovering that I could possibly make some money doing this. But then I
You'll have
get
to
a,
excuse my friend here.
oh yeah, yeah.
All right,
But
close.
then I get a message. I thought it was like a Nigerian email scam, but I get a message from on MySpace before Facebook from an Australian magazine called Pacific Magazine, right? Never heard of it before. And I was, of course, was very skeptical,
Yeah.
but they said they were interested in having me not just star in a couple commercial spots for their magazine, but also write, direct, produce them, right?
That must have been so suspicious because you're like, how do we know I can do these things?
I had never, I mean, I had produced before. I had done small things. Like I had done Across the Hall at that time. I'd done
Right.
things like that.
Oh, that's a good point. Yes, yes.
I believe I did Across the Hall at that time. I think so. But I had,
The time frame when Across the Hall happened is really fuzzy in my head.
I'm pretty sure I had done the short film at that time.
Yeah.
But still, yeah, I wasn't making any money. Everything was hard back then.
Yes, that's why I wasn't doing it as much as you guys were. I was at
But
my day job.
long story short, I ended up getting basically an offer to do this, but present a bid. They asked me to present a bid. And I did. I presented a bid, but I didn't want to lose the opportunity. So I presented kind of on the lower end, but I also put together 10 ideas. They wanted me to send them 10 ideas and just to green light the whole thing and then move forward. And then we'll give you the budget for it. So I had 16,000 in credit card debt. God, I really needed this job, right, to come to actually materialize. So I was so careful to close the deal. And again, I didn't know if it was even real. I just had to take this chance opportunity. So I got together with my brother, came up with 10 ideas, pitched them. They loved a couple of them, or two of them were doable for them. And the one they chose was a day in the life of Cruz, like Cruz getting a coffee in the morning, Cruz getting some fish at the fish store, and Cruz doing a red carpet. So it was like a day in the life, one full day of Tom Cruise, right? And and then I set my budget, which was around $65,000 to do 3 commercial spots. And my budget for myself, because I was writing, directing, producing, and starring in it, I budgeted about $40,000 for myself. And the rest was going to be the rest of the crew and the equipment.
Because really, it shouldn't be you're the main attraction. That might sound like a lot to some people, but it shouldn't be a whole lot because you're the reason you're there.
It might have been a little bit less than that, but it was a good proportion of the whole budget.
I mean, you're not shooting the Top Gun like reenactments,
No.
You're not flying everybody to the danger zone.
But basically, I hired some really good crew members too, and I remember.
So they said yes to that. They accepted it.
Yeah, they said yes to it, but I still didn't have the money yet. It was my first time dealing with an international wire transfer, and again, I still wasn't quite sure. I never even saw them in person. I never.
How long was this whole process, by the way?
Well, this is all through MySpace, like I said. So it was about a month.
Oh, okay. So you have plenty of time to sit around going, "There's no way. How can this be real?"
a month of going back and forth and having them okay these different stages, but I still maybe talked to them on the phone once, but I had an email with the people from this company. But so it went from MySpace to email, right? So then, I'm giving them my account router information, all these things that I was like just giving it away. Like, oh my God, I could either, but how much worse could it get? I mean, 16,000.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
So what are you going to tell? I have nothing. I have nothing. Yeah, my dignity.
Yeah.
So anyway, day one so I was supposed to get the wire transferred 2 days prior to the start of the shoot. Didn't come, but I was so in the red right now, and I think I was now 18,000 in debt because I had to spend money to start the production and to go out of pocket, as you know. Finally, the day of production, maybe the day after the first day, because I think the day of the production, some of the crew members were like, "Where's my money?" kind of thing, like getting serious about it in my face. And I think I had to go out of pocket for that to pay them. That's what it was. Because they were very serious.
They'd reserved their time. You'd bought
their time. Yeah. So finally, my first quarter or third of the whole shebang came through that next day, and it was like life changing. And I paid off all my debt in one
Oh,
swoop.
that's a nice
And
feeling.
it was just the most beautiful thing. And also completely unexpected, like out of left field. And my whole life, now look, obviously I credit, there's a lot of things, a lot of either whether it's my own ability to do this thing well, my natural
Right.
ability, like obviously that there's that. I again, I have not planned any of this career. I've kind of just gone with the flow, and sometimes I've missed the I've missed like the momentum of things like new platforms like TikTok and Instagram, but sometimes I've timed things perfectly. So I've had lucky, fortuitous moments in my life, but I haven't done everything right by any means. But my point is that I've kept it going for like 25 years.
Right.
And
But the thing is,
that's
like,
it's
in having known you from back then, that doesn't surprise me because it's like you're somebody who was always. I had a very hard time talking to people back then, like especially people I didn't know.
yeah,
You and Alex, especially you, were very outgoing. You had no problem, like you had no problem having an idea and pushing for it. And I remember in the
right.
early days of us working together in Five Lion, it was like I felt
Yeah,
next to you two, I didn't know where you had the personal skills and just the drive that I didn't know where to find. And like it doesn't
right.
surprise me that you found something out of this. You're
Yeah, well,
very
yeah,
smart.
I mean, it yeah, I mean, look, I did some things right. But I also think that some higher power, I believe in a higher power, okay, has been looking down on me or looking after me, whether we are the universe experience ourselves, whatever it is you believe, whether it's manifestation or the secret, law of attraction. But some incredibly miraculous things have happened in my life that have taken me from dire straits to above ground and breathing. Um, so I'm super lucky, and I'm very grateful for any of the success I've had over the years. But the Tom Cruise thing has absolutely saved my life on several occasions from out of left field, and it's amazing.
Yeah, it's a hard
It's been
thing to
amazing.
plan for.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's crazy.
So I remember seeing a picture of you with Tom once.
Yeah.
What was that like? And how'd that come about?
Um, it was at Chateau Marmont, this famous iconic landmark hotel in Los Angeles, and I was having dessert drinks with some friends. I heard a rumor while we were in the garden. My friend was sitting in the corner and beckoned me over and said, "Tom Cruise is in the building. You have to find him." And I was really excited to be in this, maybe in the same room with him, breathing in the same oxygen. And he was nowhere to be found. I looked everywhere for him. I went to the bathroom, even looked under the stalls, nothing. And then I get back to my seat. I'm resigned to the fact that he might have just left, and it's okay. I'll see him another time. Which probably wasn't going to happen because I haven't seen him since.
You don't just
But the
bump into
point,
him at like the
no,
Piggly Wiggly or something.
no, or at Whole Foods. He doesn't shop at
Yeah.
Trader Joe's.
I don't think he knows how much a
No,
bunch of bananas costs.
no, 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 no. He has no idea the cost of bananas. So I get back to my seat, and all of a sudden he's just to the left of me, 10 feet away, back to me, talking to Jeremy Renner and a couple other people at his table, like John Krasinski was there, people from The Office.
Lord.
Yeah. It's like a big dinner they were having. And I called the waiter over, and I thought it'd be nice and to commemorate our first time meeting one another by sending over a bottle of champagne. And the waiter shot me down immediately. Like it was code red, like, you'll be banned from Chateau and I'll be fired. Super serious about it. No laughing, no smiling,
Yeah.
nothing encouraging. Just you're done. Don't even mention it again. So I was like, fuck, okay, great. I guess I'm not gonna do that. But my girlfriend at the time said to me, "There's no way in hell you're leaving here tonight without meeting him." So she actually is the reason why I met him, because end of the night rolls around, he leaves with Jeremy Renner and a couple of friends, saying, he's like holding people and laughing and saying
Yeah.
his goodbyes. And I nodded to him. Of course, he didn't see me. And I'm having my last call. I was pretty drunk, three sheets to the wind. He's gone. I'm last call, so it's 2 a.m. My girlfriend excused herself to go to the bathroom. My phone is dead. My friend Jimmy and I are just the only ones in the garden. And he gets a phone call from Donna, my girlfriend. And my phone was dead. So, and I didn't know, I'd given Donna his number just in case my phone died, but I'd
Yeah.
forgotten that. And he says to me, "Tom Cruise is waiting for you in the lobby, in the valet area." And I said, shut the fuck up. Because he messes with me all the time.
Yeah.
And he says it again. Tom Cruise is waiting for you at the valet. No, and he didn't smile at all. He just said it. He was in disbelief.
Yeah.
I get up out of my chair, sprint. And Jimmy's kind of walking behind me or running behind me, but because he eventually was there too. I think to take the final picture. So I get there, he's waiting for me. Jeremy Renner's there too, but he wasn't paying Jeremy any attention. It was just Tom Cruise and I, we were in love. It was beautiful.
Did he know about you at all, or did
he picked me up and twirled me around, and
did he really?
He planted one on my lips. Yeah.
Oh, that's beautiful. That's awesome. But like, is he? I mean, I don't know what a guy like Tom Cruise is even aware of in terms of like.
I mean, I don't know if he probably doesn't follow my stuff, but he was definitely aware because I was on. I had won Best Tom Cruise Impersonator contest on Extra.
I had friends hit me up about that because
Mario Lopez and
yes.
he showed some of my early stuff to Tom Cruise. And yeah.
That's actually so. People hit me up about that a bunch because like Two Truths and a Lie, that thing, the icebreaker thing. So all over the years of me having to do that at all the different corporate jobs I've had, my two truths have always been that I went to college with the best Tom Cruise impersonator in the world, and George Carlin once complimented me on my shirt, because it's like those both happened, and like,
but they're
right, and so then the other one is wherever I make up for the lie. And so people have always remembered that when that happened, I had a bunch of people text me like, is this the guy that you know? And I'm like, yeah, that's him. Right.
That's hysterical.
Yeah. So how'd that come about? Because that was pretty, like, it was just so like validating because, obviously we all thought you were the best Tom Cruise impersonator out there, but to hear AC Slater say it,
Yeah. So I took advantage of every opportunity back then. Like these are good choices I made back then.
It's called networking.
Well, networking, but jumping on opportunities when they present themselves. So there was an opportunity to submit something. It took very little effort. I just posted one of my videos. I think it was the first YouTube video I ever posted, again, without the glasses, without the wig, but it was a decent montage of his best performances, of his iconic performances. And that's what I think they showed. I'm pretty sure. I don't think I recorded anything differently. So that was cool. And then, years later, I've timed some things out really well. Like I missed the boat on certain platforms, because I could have had a bigger following or gotten on early on the train and started producing regular content. But I'm focused on quality and not the quantity. But there was the best choice I ever made, and it was a choice that I was again pushed to do so by this friend of mine. But when Justin Bieber tweeted one evening to Tom Cruise himself, he doesn't know him, but he said, "Hey Tom, let's fight in the Octagon UFC. I just want to fight you." He was probably high, right? Yeah. Justin Bieber wrote this to Tom Cruise.
Yeah.
So my friend said to me, "You have to respond as Tom, because Tom won't respond." And that's essentially what I've done in my career. When Tom doesn't respond to things, which he doesn't, I respond.
That's amazing.
So I responded to Justin Bieber. I just did a video directly to Justin Bieber, and that went viral on Twitter, which I had never done before. I had I think almost 1 million views. I tagged Dana White. I tagged people affiliated with UFC. I just
you can start training.
Yes, exactly. Well, my second video that I put out, because my first one went viral, was me training like Rocky style and taunting Justin Bieber further. And I called him Justine Bieber,
Oh.
And
still stinging to this day, I'm sure.
Maybe we'll see.
What is it like when you start getting that level of...
But I want to say one thing. So since those videos, I'm no joke, that was back in 2019, I think. I literally have been working consistently ever since.
Wow.
And by consistently, I mean I get offers or calls nearly every day of my entire life since that video came out, because it's just a momentum thing.
Yeah, because I'm just thinking, there's no way for you to really market it. I mean, you can do market a little bit, but it's really word of mouth, or just word of video.
The way you got to do it, unfortunately, which is the energy component, because now I have a kid who's almost 3 years old. I have very limited energy. I'm 44. It's much easier 20 years ago. But you got to put out content. And if you don't put out that content that's shared on social media, people just forget about you or think you don't do it anymore.
Right. The
So
example I use is
occasionally,
like Kendrick's new album. We waited
mm,
for that for years. It came, it was amazing. Everybody forgot about it in like a week. It's
wow,
like that's like it's so hard to keep things
yeah,
momentum, you know?
you got to stay in the zeitgeist. And if you're not in the zeitgeist, then it's really hard to, even if you're talented, to have anything, you know, go anywhere. But also Top Gun Maverick was a phenomenon, and I made more money that year than I've ever made in my entire life.
Wow.
And it's all because of Top Gun Maverick.
So you're really rooting for those big opening weekends.
I am, but I'm also really trying to figure out an exit strategy to all of this and like my next moves, because again, I don't have all the energy that I once had, and
Yeah.
I would
Well,
love to
what is
kind of,
Tom doing to hold on to the energy? I guess he's got
well,
those Tom Cruise
well,
bucks.
what I genuinely would like to do, but it requires a lot of short-term work, and then eventually I could just, really enjoy the work and get paid a lot of money, 10 times what I'm making now, let's say, but to do motivational speaking across the world or all over the world, across the globe, as flat earthers say, um, and do like TED Talks as Tom Cruise.
That's
So
not a bad idea.
I would do. I already do these kind of talks. So like corporate America, Fortune 500 companies
Yeah.
hire me. Some of my bread and butter work is they hire me to travel mostly domestically, but I've done some, in London and New Zealand. But they hire me to travel to their sales conferences, their annual sales conferences, and I do them pretty consistently. And I'm on stage with the CEO, the CTO, COO, and I do sketches, or I do, keynote presentations with a teleprompter, but I rehearse them in front of thousands of people. So I already do that. However, I want to bring my own script to the table, my own 45-minute keynote.
Right.
And if I can do that and write a corresponding kind of how-to mission statement, Jerry Maguire-esque mission statement for salespeople, basically what I've learned as a Tom Cruise impersonator, what attributes I've learned that will help you, a salesperson, sell things better. That's essentially what I'm putting together.
That's a
I'm doing
great
it now.
idea.
So I'm doing that now, and it's really like I would be an entertainment performer or
Right.
entertainment speaker.
Perfect for that venue because I've been
Yeah.
my career. I've been involved in hiring performers for huge sales conferences before. It's a great gig if you can get it. Like
It's a phenomenal gig if I can get it. And I know all the hiring. I know the people who do all the hiring, right? So I
yeah.
really just got to put it together, and if you build it, they will come. And the payoff, their payout is incredible. Like I know people who have these best-selling books. Of course, I need to write a book that a corresponding book. But if I can, which I will, then I could make like $35,000 to $60,000 a speaking engagement.
Yeah.
Like that's
Yeah.
insane.
It is.
And
And
that
they fly you out there. They put you up someplace nice. Like
I do
it's
I do I do 20 of them a year, and I'm making millions of dollars a year.
yeah.
Well over $1 million
By
a year.
not being Tom Cruise. No one
And
else is
that's
making this sort of money by not
and
being
then
Tom
and
Cruise.
then the rest of the time I have my leisure to be with family, and
Yeah.
you know,
That's like the game show host is like the best job in Hollywood because you work like you
yeah,
tape a week's work of episodes of a day and there's like 20 weeks of reruns. You work like 30
exactly.
hours a day or 30 hours a year.
So work less, live more. I'm
Yeah.
always trying to get it, do that. But sometimes I'm really lazy. So the work comes in, I do the work, get paid, but I really need to level up. And the only way to level up is to really put in that so much, sweat equity into this new venture, to not have to basically just move on from this high intensity job that I have.
Yeah. What's beautiful about this idea though is that of course you're competing with other people trying to get those jobs, but you're not competing with like other Tom Cruise impersonators. Like you
No,
have like there's so much of the niche there.
it's a unique offering. It's a unique offering and presentation. And essentially what I have to do is to write a corresponding little manual book, but then more importantly, do a video of me as if it was a TED conference doing my 45-minute piece. And that's what I send to people, or I do a short demo of that. I cut it down,
Yeah.
but I need that to sell it. I need a proof of concept.
It would be great too. And I'm just spitballing here. Do you ever that masterclass thing Do you ever
Yeah.
sign up? I love that. Someone gave me a script for that.
Yeah, I
It
did.
would
I
be
did that
funny to
for.
do a Tom Cruise master, like a not Tom Cruise masterclass.
I
Because
love
like
that.
the
I
David
love
Lynch
that.
one, if you haven't seen that, is
Yeah.
absolutely bonkers. And
A Tom Cruise masterclass produced really well would be hilarious.
yeah, I
Yeah.
can,
Yeah.
and those are pretty low budget too. I mean, you could put them together
Yeah.
pretty easily.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's
Yeah. Yeah. Just
um
need a leather chair and like, some books behind me and
some dramatic lighting
yeah.
and
Yeah. Yeah.
that good stuff.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
wanted to, you've done, I got your IMDb credits here, and there's a
Yeah.
bunch of things I wanted to ask you about if you don't mind.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah. Yeah. Go for it.
one thing too before I forget is I don't know if Alex might have told me this years ago, but I've never asked you about this. Did you work with Yoko Ono on a
Yeah,
play at some point? You need
I
because I've
did.
always been curious about that, but never had a chance to talk to you. What was that experience like?
That was amazing. I was 15 years old. I played a street kid. I was one of 9 cast members, and it was autobiographical about John's murder. So it was very heavy.
Really?
Yeah.
It was actually
But
about John. Wow.
yeah, and it was Yoko and John's music that they wrote for Double Fantasy. I believe it was a bunch of songs from there that was
How'd you get involved with this?
I was cast just as a,
Wow.
it was basically musical theater, but it was a rock opera. Um, I worked with some incredible people. I worked with this guy, Jason Robert Brown, who has gone on to win many Tony Awards. He's like the new Sondheim, Stephen Sondheim, who's considered to be like a prodigy and musical theater composer. And so he wrote music, but he's also does the transposing and orchestration, I guess. But worked with this guy Phil Osterman, great director, and then the cast was terrific, and I had some big numbers, and dancing. I had to do a lot of dancing in it, which I'm not a dancer, but I had to do like abstract dancing and pole dancing work. I was on a pole.
I just always think
Uh,
of there was an episode of Mad About You where
yeah.
Yoko Ono hired Paul Reiser to make a movie, and she told him she wanted him to film The Wind, and he spent the whole episode trying to figure out what that meant.
Oh my God, that's hilarious.
And
Was
it's like
she was in it though?
she was in, and they kept saying like,
Oh
"Don't
wow.
mention the Beatles, don't mention the Beatles." And when she comes out, she's in full like hippie with like the Beatles playing.
That's hysterical. By the
Yeah.
way, I did talk to her about the Beatles, and I talked to her about John's death, and I talked to her about everything.
Really?
I was 15 years old, so I can kind of like get away with more.
Yeah, yeah,
Not that I was trying to, I was just a kid, just curious,
yeah.
And I was with Sean Lennon quite a bit, and he was next door at the Dakota. I ended up staying at the Dakota, which is where John was shot. And I stayed there, slept in John's bed for 12 nights because
Wow.
there were all these snowstorms back in 1993. And Yoko invited me to stay at her place because I couldn't get into the city for rehearsals, for dress rehearsals.
So was she still living there?
Mm-hmm. She still
Wow.
lives there.
Still to this day
And
lives there?
yeah.
Wow.
But she slept in a different room. So the room that they used to share is now the guest room. That's the room that I slept in. And I played the white piano that he wrote Imagine on. It's crazy. I played Hot Cross Buns on the piano because that's all I knew.
That piano might have been on that Mad About You episode too, I think.
That piano is like the most legendary piano in the world.
Yeah, yeah.
And I fucking played it looking out over Central Park West. And I also had snowball fights with Yoko because right at they were at Central Park West 76, I think. And then I also watched Goodfellas with her. I remember I was invited to her summer home in Oneonta, New York, which is like a big log cabin with 600 acres. And I drove ATVs with Yoko, ATVs throughout the mountains with
That's
Yoko.
funny. I love stories of it. I have a friend who has a paintball painting by Rosie O'Donnell because he knew someone who knew her, and they're at the house once. She was just shooting canvases with a paintball gun. I was like, "Here, take one."
So I'll admit
Love
this,
stories
even
like
though
that.
it's not something you share on podcasts typically, but
I can always cut it out if you want later.
well, maybe, but the craziest thing happened. So one time I was on Laserdisc. She had Laserdiscs at the log cabin in Oneonta, and I popped in Caligula, and I may or may not have begun to pleasure myself while watching it downstairs.
Yeah.
And she's very soft little feet, and I didn't hear her coming, and she comes downstairs, and I believe she caught me in the
Wow.
act. Yeah. That was crazy.
That's fucking
And then
hilarious.
another funny experience with her is that I did a lot of fight choreography in the show, And there was a scene where in dress rehearsal, I'm being thrown into a garbage can and I'm being pulled by the hair and tossed into, in a fight. And that day, I don't know if I think I wore boxer briefs, or I don't know what it was, or very loose fitting boxers. But the guy who took me by the feet and threw me into the garbage can took everything off of me, and I was naked, exposed in front of Yoko and the rest of the producers.
Wow.
It was thoroughly embarrassing. Yeah.
What was the show
So
called?
New York Rock. New York
So
Rock, yeah.
everything you just
And
mentioned.
we did an album too on Apple Records. That was awesome too. I recorded an album on Apple.
Welcome to my Google search history, New York Rock.
Yeah.
Everything you just described does not sound at all like it's about the death of John Lennon, though. Like what? Like was
Well, I mean, so I played like a street kid junkie part of the. I think I killed John. I was one of the characters that I
you're Mark David
believe.
Chapman?
Yeah, but it wasn't Mark. It was a bunch of street kids that just, the
So
whole
this
thing
is a
was about.
fictionalized talent. Oh, you explain it better than me because you'll.
That's exactly what it was. It was a fictionalized telling of a similar type of story about lovers in New York, and how he's an aspiring musician. So I think he wasn't like famous. He was just an aspiring musician. I believe he was just gunned down, and it's about the aftermath of that, and and kind of idealistic revolution to get guns out of kids' hands, just to throw guns out. I remember there was a scene where we threw all the guns out in a trash can. It was super artsy and abstract, but it wasn't. It had some great moments and some show-stopping numbers in a dark way. I mean, I guess show-stopping is the wrong terminology to talk about something so dark, but it was compelling. It just didn't. We had an opportunity to do the show in Japan, which I was super excited about, to go to Japan and do the show, but eventually it all went away because I think the investors just backed out last minute. But I had some amazing experiences. I hung out with Cyndi Lauper a few times, and like just cool things, like cool epic scenarios that are kind of legendary. Like I never would have been in that situation otherwise.
So you had a lot of success before I even met you. Like you obviously, no one I know had these sort of experiences in high school. Like, and then you went to college to study English and
Yeah.
economics. What was it that made you think that this wasn't really, despite your successes, this wasn't really the life for you?
Well, I was still, so some interesting things that happened where my agent at the time, because I was doing pretty well at the time and I was kind of like on a roll, and casting directors knew me, and I was like top of the list for different casting directors. And I was up for some things. Like I was up for, just to let you know, one of the funny things I was up for that I wouldn't say I almost got it, but I had a director's meeting. I had 3 callbacks, but I almost maybe I was up against 3 or 4 other people, but I was very close to getting Robin and Batman and Robin. So Chris O'Donnell got it, but I was
Really?
up. Yeah, I almost got
That's
Robin because
amazing.
they wanted like a real boy wonder initially,
Yeah,
and I was
you would have
fit.
been good in that. Yeah,
I was
because
I was
he
fit.
was what 136 years old trying to play Robin.
Well, he
Like,
was a little bit older, but he was
yeah,
still good casting.
but
But
he was good. But I mean, those
I was
movies weren't the best movies. But
I was like more the boy wonder
yeah,
choice, right?
I could see that.
And yeah, I remember meeting with Joel Schumacher about it. I also had auditions for Paul Simon years ago. I met with Paul Simon, which was so cool.
What was he
But yeah, I
doing
had
in that realm?
so he was doing a show called Cape Man. He was the writer of Cape Man, yeah, a Broadway show.
Well, I love Paul Simon.
Yeah, it was like a lot of Graceland music, I think, and then original music. But yeah, I had like awesome experiences. But uh when I went to college, that the I think it was during the summer of the first year of college, I ended up booking 2 things. I ended up booking a Broadway show revival, or not a revival, a Broadway show for Tom Sawyer the musical, which was cool. And I did the backers audition for that, which is like the period where they rehearse and try to raise money for it.
Mhm.
So I was part of that whole thing, but it was the original cast of Tom Sawyer. And then I also did a similar thing for a movie called Camp, which was Stage Door Manor inspired.
That sounds familiar. I think I've seen
So
Camp.
Camp ended up getting made, but without me, because both of them were kind of fell through for me. And I think that's why I went back to school, because I took a year off from college to do these two projects.
Yeah.
And I worked on both of them for 6 months at the same time, I believe, or back to back. And I really was like, well, why even go back to college? I'm just doing really well right now. But so camp fell through because they decided, or they lost their financing at $6 million to do it. And they were going to do it with Kevin Spacey and a decent cast. And I was a star of the movie. And it was very exciting, 19 years old, and would have been awesome for me. And they ended up losing the financing and then getting new financing, but only to do it for $2 million. And they had to do it non-union. So they did it as an equity production. So just equity members could do it, not SAG. So the entire cast got scrapped. It sucked. So that sucked. And then Tom Sawyer, I ended up going back to college, and then it goes to Broadway. But now I was back in college and I couldn't do the Broadway run. So I was invited to do the Broadway run, but I couldn't do it. And
was that a tough decision?
Yeah, I mean, it was a little bit, but the Broadway show ended up running for a week and then closing down.
Yeah, I was going to say, so many things are not guaranteed, even when they sound like, really, it's like, it's a miracle anything ever gets made in the entertainment industry, especially something good.
I basically was like, let me just get an education. And I spent, by the way, I paid for college myself. So all the money I've made growing up, I put it all at Boston University, very expensive school, as you know.
Yeah.
But I did it.
That's why I graduated in 3 years, because I didn't want to pay for a fourth year.
I went to summer school too, and so I took a year off, but I still ended up graduating in 3 years because I went to summer school.
Yeah, and now BU was an expensive school too. What it is now is insane.
I think it's close
to $32,000 or something back.
I think it's twice that now. I think it's twice.
Good Lord.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We had some good times. We had some good times there, though. I loved it there.
Yeah, it's funny. There's Alex. I was, for the film I'm working on, I'm digging up some old footage that I'm sort of incorporating in, and Alex was nice enough to dig up the aftershock
oh wow,
behind the scenes stuff that we did.
That's awesome.
Which was really took me back. It's just it's nuts. It's just
that was with Joy, right? Joy was in that?
No, this was the one where
Aftershock. What is that?
Yeah, that was still in college, where like you played the person who like woke up and didn't know where he was.
Oh, that one's hysterical.
Yeah.
The drunken night, right?
Yep.
That's that was with what's her name? The redhead.
I can't remember her name, but I can picture
the redhead. The redhead.
Like, we cast her, and I don't think we really were friends with her before or after, but she was really good in it.
She was a redhead, and then the guy comes up behind the bed, and we had a threesome, I guess, or something.
Something like it was Aaron.
Yeah, Aaron. Yeah, Aaron.
That was his name. He was wearing the tank top. He was big. Yeah. I think that was his name. I have just a hard time remembering these people that we used to spend all this time with.
I know.
All right. So I don't want to hold it for too long. Let me ask you about a few other quick experiences. Sopranos.
So that was really interesting because I have a theory about what happened. I was, I auditioned for Sopranos, but I auditioned for a lot of HBO stuff and some good stuff, but booking something is sometimes very challenging. I don't book that often. I've had a lot of rejections in my life, thousands and thousands, it's just since I was 7 years old. So I ended up getting this job without auditioning. Okay. Now it was a very small role, but I did have a few lines, and I had a name, Brandon. I was one of AJ's friends in the show. But I was, featured throughout an entire episode. It was a pretty cool episode because it was a controversial one with the gay mobster. Remember?
I've actually, to be honest with you, I've only seen the last episode of The Sopranos.
Oh, okay. Well, there was a gay mobster,
but I am going to go back and watch this one though.
But that was a very big storyline in one of the seasons of, because it was an interesting one. Like, what happens if a mobster is gay?
Right. Yeah.
Or comes out like it's like the DL, So, yeah, it was a cool one to be a part of. But I was dating a girl at the time named Jamie. I won't say the last name, but the
Lee Curtis. Don't worry, I know.
Yeah, Jamie Lee Curtis. But her father was the head of the Teamsters. Okay.
Tony Curtis was the head of the team. All right.
But yeah. But he was of course affiliate like all the shows, Sopranos, and the Teamsters run all the shows in terms of behind the scenes at least. And I'm pretty sure that she got me the job on that show. I'm almost
Were you
positive.
still dating at the time, or was
It
it
was
just
while it
like,
was while we were dating that I was on the show. And again, you don't get a job like this, even if it's a one-liner,
right?
two-liner, three-liner, without auditioning. It
Yeah.
just doesn't happen.
But it is funny though that you can get the job and never find out how exactly, because that is a very like entertainment business thing to do. Because once you're
Yeah.
there, you're just there doing it, and it's like you don't
Yeah.
even want to be like, you don't want to ask a question because they might go, "Wait a minute, why are you here?" Like, you don't want to
Yeah,
phrase.
I didn't question it too much. I just did the job and was grateful for it, and then always wondered what that was all about. We did break up not soon after, not long after. I'd love to find out actually. I'd love to hit her up and ask her,
Yeah, yeah.
just because it would give me a little bit of peace, even though I don't care that much. But it's kind of funny.
It
It
is
was just
weird
like
though.
it
Yeah,
just would it doesn't happen very often. But I still get residuals to this day, even though they're very minor and small. But I probably in one day of work made like close to $7,000, $10,000 off of a very minor role.
that's not bad at all.
You know,
And
and you,
in a prestigious show, that's always you're always gonna have your name
I
attached to
just
it.
I just wish I had more days on these shows because the residual payments are great.
Yeah, and I think Sopranos is
Not
one that will keep coming, and a lot of these other ones,
yeah,
that
not
show will live forever.
not in streaming, of course, because that's what this whole strike is about. Streaming sucks, but royalties and residuals are what it's all about. You know.
Is there anything regarding the strike that you feel like touching on? It's a really like it's
Well,
a mess. It feels like it's gonna go on forever.
yeah, it's all about leverage and who can survive longer. I mean, the first bad news, or I guess it depends on how you look at it, but the first, hit that the studios are taking from Warner Brothers, that came out today, that I think they're going to lose $500 million right now because of the strikes. They originally said a few months ago that they were making money because they've had increase in subscribership. Same thing with Netflix. The password sharing thing didn't
Yeah,
stop them from making they gained subscribers, believe it or not. But I think now the studios are starting to feel, or at least the streaming services are going to start to feel the pinch. And they're beholden to shareholders, and things might change. I mean, solidarity is what it's all about. I don't know if these interim agreements are helping or hurting, but I think optically it doesn't look good. Like the
right.
optics are bad, but it might bring studios closer to the table, because in the end, it's about the competition of content, because eventually content slates will prevail, and the ones who are developing new fresh content will end up doing pretty well, I think. um People will get tired of going through the same old content on these streaming services if nothing new is being produced. So if you have A24 or other companies that are doing the interim agreements making their content, then the studios will be way behind, will fall behind. And they eventually, there has to be a moment of threshold where they have to come to the table. I know. And then the thing is, though, the actors who weren't making money, which is the majority of actors, are still not making money, but nothing's changed there. The actors who are making money, who are not making money right now, have so much money that they don't really care. Same thing
And
with the
that's the thing
writers.
too, where it's like if you average the really high salaries where they're getting, millions or even tens of thousands with everybody else, it's like there was some statistic about how, and I don't know if this is true or not, but if you took the salaries of the 7 highest paid business people in Hollywood, it could cover all the money that the actors are asking for, or all the writers or something like that. And
Yeah.
it's just the difference is it's too huge. It's
Yeah. I mean, probably the rich are getting richer, the poor are getting poorer, kind of thing. Like the difference between the 1% and 99%, it's a larger divide than it's ever been. I know that the CEO bonuses have pissed off a lot of people, or the fact that the discrepancy in how much they get paid is outrageous now. But it's always been like that. It's just getting worse.
right.
But the biggest existential threat to everybody is definitely AI, and that's something that we live in a capitalist society. It's inevitable that corporations or producers in the entertainment industry will utilize every tool they can, AI, to not ever have to rely on actors, egos, annoyances, contracts, anything they can to avoid that bullshit part of the business.
Right.
They're going to try.
Well, part of
So
it too
I,
is there seems to be
I,
this. Oh, go
yeah,
for it. Yeah.
I was just saying I get why they're doing it.
Right.
I get why this is like the last stand, but that's why I think like they have more leverage and they always will because it's business. And I hate that. But back to art versus commerce, it's a business. It's not show friends, it's show business.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, because we live in this capitalist society, profits will always take, it's profits will always take precedence or be more important than anyone's feelings
Yeah.
or anyone's jobs.
That's what it comes down to.
They don't care about the majority people making acting a livelihood or writing a livelihood. It's a pipe dream if you really want to get down to it. For most people, and it's always been, and it's admirable. Like I obviously I support artists, but it's still a absolutely unlikely scenario for someone to make it as an artist.
Anybody who tries is at least partially delusional, I would say.
Of course, absolutely.
Myself included, probably yourself included.
Oh
it's
yeah,
like,
yeah. And look, I don't make my money in acting traditionally. I make my money as a Tom Cruise impersonator, as a niche thing I carved out.
right.
I also am in real estate because I need other forms of income, and I have investments. But if I solely did acting, even if I was fantastic, and like, because I don't really consider myself a fantastic actor. I'm good at one thing really, and I might have some funny moments in my acting, like I guess, but I'm not, I don't put myself in categories of being a good actor. But even if you're a great actor, the industry is so inefficient that doesn't mean you're going to be successful.
Well, that's one of the problems too that I was going to mention before. So I'm more of a musician than I am at other stuff. And like what you saw with music was that like people are going to, all right, no one's paying $20 for a CD anymore, and whatever. It's like there's so much more music now. The value of it goes down because it's so much easier to make. And now with content, it seems like what's happening is that they make a billion shows with the hope of those 5 or 6 that really Squid Game up and blow up and pay for the rest. But
Right.
like if they're not making a zillion shows, that's like that means they're taking less shots at that big one. So they have to find a way to still make the zillion shows, make it affordable, because it's like in Hollywood does not know what's going to succeed. Like that's the thing too. It's like they still don't know.
But
It's
but
like
they throw spaghetti at the wall, see what sticks, right?
yeah.
But
And with
studios,
AI, they can throw a lot more spaghetti at once.
exactly. And if they can do that, it's all about the law of numbers. So the more you throw at the wall, doesn't matter if of the 30 that throw at the wall, if 29 of them are failures, that last one will be a massive success and counter
for
for all the failures.
Yep.
So independent studios or independent productions or producers, they're only as strong as their product. So if they miss one, if they fail at one, they might go under.
Yep. Yep. It's funny. That's one thing I've used this podcast for, is to sort of get answers to questions that I had. It was stuff like there was a big techno label that was huge into 25 years ago, and they just disappeared one night. And I tracked the guy down who owned it and had him on. We talked about it, and I got my answers. And it comes down to stuff like that, where it's just like when you're independent, almost anything can just they were knocked out by 9/11, by a chain of events that started with 9/11, knocked out his techno label.
Wow.
Yeah. So, all right, I don't want to hold you much longer. One thing I do want to do is, you mentioned your brother, Sky Ferrante. I just want to give him a shout out because he's a really amazing artist in his own right.
Yeah.
And
his name is he goes by Man of Wire. He's a wire sculpturist and sculptor, not sculpturist, a sculptor. And he's done very well. He does a lot of commission work, works with burlesque artists and high-end escorts and just anyone who's willing to get naked in front of him, and usually it falls into that category. But exhibitionist, because he does a lot of like public sculpting. So there's this place, Petit Hermitage in LA, that he has a residency at, and he just is sculpting nudes all day, and people can kind of walk by and partake and see what he's doing. And it's very open people.
Yeah. Is this I mean, it's just you and him, right? Are the only two siblings?
Yeah. Did I ever tell you the time on the sculpting side of things? One of the funniest and exciting things that I've ever done involved this sculptor in Queens who had a big crush on me. Every time I walked by, he would kind of like almost catcall, and he lured me into his place, and I was always very reluctant to go in. I knew he was a sculptor. I never saw his work, but he would always be like, come to my studio, have some tea. And I always avoided
You're the ones
that.
they warned me about.
Yeah, and I was I usually had a girlfriend. I was with a girlfriend typically every time I walked by, sometimes alone. But I always, made him know that I wasn't interested. But one day, I think with her, I walked into his studio because I didn't feel comfortable going alone. And he showed me his work, and it was actually really amazing. He sculpted bronze statues, and other precious, like other metals too. But he asked me if I would pose for him for a commission piece, and that commission piece was going to be bought by a billionaire and be in a billionaire's courtyard forever. Okay. And so I did Puck from Midsummer Night's Dream.
Yeah.
I played Puck, and I basically was naked, but I had a jock strap for the job because I didn't want to be naked in front of him. Yeah. So I wore a jock strap, and I have the pictures of myself in his courtyard, this billionaire's courtyard, but it's basically my whole body and off on display.
That is amazing.
Yeah. Isn't that crazy?
It's crazy to think that like there's so much you'd be able to cram into this life too. It's like you have a great story for everything, man. That is crazy.
Yeah.
It's probably still there to this day.
It is, of course.
Yeah. I mean,
yeah, it's one of his most beloved possessions.
Of course. You should go in there and dress it up like Risky Business.
I had a flute and everything.
Holy shit. How long do you have to stand there for?
It was probably like a few hours. Okay. 2 hours.
Not terrible. That's funny, man. All right, well, I could go on and talk to you forever about this stuff, but I know you probably got stuff to do.
Well, I just want to get into a pool right now. I'm very hot. I want to swim in a pool right now.
Yeah, it is really hot.
But thank you for having me. I probably should take off this. Probably should take off the sweatshirt. That would be smart. But thanks so much for having me. It was so great to see you again. And
you too, man.
I wish you well. Yeah.
Yeah, man. I'll hit you up next time I'm in LA. Now that John's out there,
please do.
I'm having I hadn't talked to Alex in
I would love that.
a decade.
Yeah. We'll all get together.
And I figured now that like I'm talking to him again, I'll find some time to come out there. So
let's do it. Cool,
man. All right, it's been a pleasure, man. I'll talk to you.
Talk to you. Bye.
Some motherfucking dub in there. You feel me? We riding today. You riding this? Yeah. We got sober. We got pills. We got honest. What up? Yeah. We got everything we need, man. Check. I'm not gonna say I'm a licensed, but it's just saying professional. You feel me? Come on, let's go to nice sunny days. Hey, you know summer's coming when folks start getting shot and smoked on city blocks for low, if any guap. Same shit, yeah. My first full gray hair. One more felony, I might have my first full gray beard. It's way weird. Feel like that was only yesterday. I'ma slowly blow like parolees. The homies guesstimate. When I blow, don't blow me like you know me. No, hit the exit stage. Left of the tackle spray, redirecting your steps this way. It feels shit progressing. Got the steel with the vested. Even in the summertime, I will Smith and Wesson. You cutting from the grassy, so underground Nardwar wouldn't know what the fuck to ask me. I stick it in the stomach. Now let me hit the throat. She call me Mr. Drummond. So many different strokes. Your punchlines, Mr. Drummond. Audience, Mr. Jokes. To your family, return from visit folks.
Some loving, some loving. That's just some loving. Some loving, some loving, some loving. That's just some loving. Meet Ann with wings clipped, quick to flip manuscripts. Cause her man went from damaged kid to damn he's rich. But she still can't stand the way he manages to never put nickels in the can for the cancer kids. Plus he cheats at cornhole and brags that he won. So she lost interest like porno after she comes. My DM started jingling, baby, as it was done. 2 seconds later I can hear the snapping of her gums. She calls me half Dodge Challenger, half Lip Gallagher. I'm happy that I luckily sat next to her in algebra. I tried to hold her down, but I just couldn't balance her between the million meetings that I keep in my calendar. Plus odds aren't too sloppy that I know why my cell is blowing up probably, but I should check just as well. Call the cops, see if I can get a hold and tell if that's copyright's Yale raising hell inside the holding cell. Some loving, some loving. That's just some loving. Some loving, some loving. That's just some loving.
Yeah, I can smell the smoke from the cookout. The bushes in the parks with the lookout. Fresh Prince
summertime on the radio. Throwback Friday, all the ladies know. Then I'm a smooth type guy. Listen, I'm the shit I need 2-time ply. Part of my soul on my head sky high. The weed smoke cover my body, so I try. Put a scent on like sunblock. Summertime's body season, so keep your gun cocked. I count beers in the cooler, cause when the fun stops, that's when the arguments happen. In the gunshots, it's summertime. Backyards where we play cards. Spitting in cipher, the homie trade bars. Dominoes slam on the table, we take charge. I got a style you can make love.